Mitigating circumstances, Article 13 of the RPC, Part 2. Circumstances of justification or exemption which may give place to mitigation. The circumstances of justification or exemption which may give place to mitigation. Because not all the requisites necessary to justify the act or to exempt from criminal liability in the respective cases are attendant, are the following. 1. Self-defense, Article 11, Paragraph 1. 2. Defense of relatives, Article 11, Paragraph 2. 3. Defense of stranger, Article 11, Paragraph 3. 4. State of necessity, Article 11, Paragraph 4. 5. Performance of duty, Article 11, Paragraph 5. 6. Obedience to order of superior, Article 11, Paragraph 6. 7. Minority over 9 and under 15 years of age, Article 12, Paragraph 3. 8. Causing injury by mere accident, Article 12, Paragraph 4, and 9. Uncontrollable fear, Article 12, Paragraph 6. Paragraphs 1 and 2 of Article 12 cannot give place to mitigation, because, as stated by the Supreme Court of Spain, the mental condition of a person is indivisible. That is, there is no middle ground between sanity and insanity, between presence and absence of intelligence. But if the offender is suffering from some illness which would diminish the exercise of his willpower, without however depriving him of consciousness of his acts, such circumstance is considered a mitigation under paragraph 9 of Article 13. It would seem that one who is suffering from mental disease without however depriving one of consciousness of one's act may be given the benefit of that mitigating circumstance. When all the requisites necessary to justify the act are not attendant. 1. Incomplete self-defense, defense of relatives, and defense of stranger. Note that in these three classes of defense, unlawful aggression must be present, it being an indispensable requisite. What is absent is either one or both of the last two requisites. Paragraph 1 of Article 13 is applicable only when unlawful aggression is present but the other two requisites are not present in any of the cases referred to in circumstances numbers 1, 2 and 3 of Article 11. Article 13, Paragraph 1, applies only when unlawful aggression is present, but the other two requisites are not present. When two of the three requisites mentioned therein are present, for example, unlawful aggression and any one of the other two, the case must not be considered as one in which an ordinary or generic mitigating circumstance is present. Instead, it should be considered privileged mitigating circumstance referred to in Article 69 of this Code. Thus, if in self-defense there was unlawful aggression on the part of the deceased, the means employed to prevent or repel it was reasonable, but the one making a defense gave sufficient provocation. He is entitled to a privileged mitigating circumstance, because the majority of the conditions required to justify the act is present. Article 69. Also, if in the defense of a relative there was unlawful aggression on the part of the deceased, but the one defending the relative used unreasonable means to prevent or repel it, he is entitled to a privileged mitigating circumstance. When there is unlawful aggression on the part of the deceased without sufficient provocation by the defendant, but the latter uses means not reasonably necessary. For after having snatched the rope from the deceased, he should not have wound it around her neck and tightened it. Held, there is incomplete self-defense on the part of the defendant, which may be considered a privileged mitigating circumstance. People versus Martin. But if there is no unlawful aggression, there could be no self-defense or defense of a relative, whether complete or incomplete. Example of incomplete defense. The deceased was about to set on fire the house of the accused, where she was sleeping together with her 2 children. They grappled and the accused boloed to death the deceased. There was unlawful aggression consisting in trying to set on fire the house of the accused. There was the element of danger to the occupants of the house. But having already driven the aggressor out of the house, who was prostrate on the ground, the accused should not have persisted in wounding her no less than 14 times. There is, therefore, absence of one circumstance to justify the act reasonable necessity of killing the aggressor. The accused was entitled to a privileged mitigating circumstance of incomplete defense. Here, the accused acted in defense of her person, her home, and her children. U.S. versus Rivera. Example of incomplete self-defense. The accused is entitled to only incomplete self-defense. The deceased was in a state of drunkenness, so he was not as dangerous as he would if he had been sober. His aim proved faulty and easily evaded, as shown by the fact that the person defending was not hit by the stab attempts blows directed against him. The necessity of the means used to repel the aggression is not clearly reasonable. People versus de Jesus. Example of incomplete defense of relative. The deceased hit the first cousin of the accused with the butt of a shotgun. The deceased also pointed the shotgun at the first cousin, took a bullet from his jacket pocket, showed it to him and asked him, "Do you like this, dong?" To which the latter replied, "No, no. I do not like that." The deceased then placed the bullet in the shotgun and was thus pointing it at the first cousin when the accused came from behind the deceased and stabbed him. There was unlawful aggression on the part of the deceased and there was no provocation on the part of the accused. However, because of a running feud between the deceased and his brother on one side and the accused and his brother on the other side, the accused could not have been impelled by pure compassion or beneficence or the lawful desire to avenge the immediate wrong inflicted on his cousin. He was motivated by revenge, resentment, or evil motive. He is only entitled to the privileged mitigating circumstance of incomplete defense of relative. People versus Turing. 2. Incomplete justifying circumstance of avoidance of greater evil or injury. Avoidance of greater evil or injury is a justifying circumstance if all the 3 requisites mentioned in paragraph 4 of Article 11 are present. But if any of the last 2 requisites is absent, there is only a mitigating circumstance. 3. Incomplete justifying circumstance of performance of duty. As has been discussed under Article 11, there are 2 requisites that must be present in order that the circumstance in Article 11, number 5, may be taken as a justifying one, namely, a. That the accused acted in the performance of a duty or in the lawful exercise of a right or office, and b. That the injury caused or offense committed be the necessary consequence of the due performance of such duty or the lawful exercise of such right or office.